Good morning, children. Today we will discuss about how can parties be reformed. There are several issues within the party and outside the party we have studied in the previous class. How these parties can be reformed or how we can change these parties, that is what we are going to discuss today. So in order to face these challenges, what challenges we discussed, important 4 challenges and others too. So here, in order to face these challenges, political parties need to be reformed. So the question, are political parties willing to reform? Are they willing to change, or are they willing? What is prevented from reforming so far? So if they are not willing, it is possible to force them to reform. So citizens all over the world face this question. If political parties are not ready to change themselves, people or the citizens want to change them. So this is not a simple question to answer. In a democracy, the final decision is made by the leaders who represent political parties. So we know that our country BJP government is ruling. So Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of our country. We have elected him. People have elected him, and he is our representative. He is the representative of people, so that he can take decisions. So the final decision is made by the Prime Minister of India on behalf of the people. So people can also replace them, but only by another set of party leaders. Now how, if suppose we feel that the government is corrupted and Narendra Modi or BJP government is corrupted, we can remove them, but only what is the problem here? We have to replace some other leaders there. So if all of them, we know that all the party members, suppose BJP is corrupted, when we are removing them and electing Congress is also corrupted. So every party in the country, if or every leader in the country in different political parties are corrupted, what can we do? So all people cannot be reformed. It's not an easy task to reform every leader and every party. So the constitution, we know the major problem we have discussed, a major challenge in the party is changing the party leaders are shifting from one party to another party. So one important term in this lesson we will study is defection. Defection is changing party allegiance from the party on which the person got elected to any legislative body, that is any MP or MLA, whoever it is. If a person is elected he got elected from one party, and after winning the election he changes to a different party. So that is a major problem. This is called a defection. So any MP or MLA who is changing the parties, the constitution has amended to prevent elected MLA or MPs from changing the party. That is defection. So this was done because many elected representatives were indulging in a defection in order to become minister or for cash rewards. We know any political party, suppose a person is any MLA or MP who has won the election, being a Congress leader, and after winning the election, suppose BJP leaders are catching him and pulling him from Congress to shift to BJP, giving some cash reward or any offer as a minister post, etc. So this is a major problem faced by all the parties nowadays. Now we know that the constitution has amended in order to prevent defection. But now the law says if any MLA or MP changes the parties, he or she will lose the seat in the legislature. Suppose after winning this election, if any candidate or a person who has won after after winning, if he changes the party, his seat will be in the legislature will be cancelled or he will lose. That is the law enacted. But this law, new law, has helped to bring defection down. Now, after making this law, after amending this law, such kind of defection cases have come down less only. So, at the same time, and also he has made any dissent even more difficult. MPs and MLAs have to accept whatever the party leaders decide. They cannot. The top leaders, we already studied that top leaders decide the whatever the decisions taken by the party for the whole country. So the leaders in the lowest level cannot take any decision in the party also. Now the Supreme Court also passed an order to reduce the influence of money and criminals in the politics. This is also a major problem, major challenge faced by the political parties. In the last session we have studied criminals are coming into the politics. Okay, many of the criminals and those who are very rich people and businessmen and corporates are entering into politics. Also, they are providing fund to the or money to the political leaders and supporting from outside also. They also influence the leaders to take major decisions. And so in order to reduce this problem, money and criminals, influence of money and criminals, the Supreme Court has passed an order to submit or file an affidavit before the candidate giving nomination to contest in the election. What is the affidavit? Affidavit, all these leaders or the candidate have to submit an affidavit to the election commission. What is the affidavit? That means it's a signed document submitted to an officer where a person makes a sworn statement regarding his or her personal information. That means when the leader before going to contest the election, he has to submit a document informing all about his property, how much of property he has, and if he is he was involved in any criminal cases, etc. All his personal information has to be submitted to the any officer who is related with the election commission. So this affidavit also, so that all his, but one problem, he will give, the leaders are giving the affidavit that about his property, etc. But the major problem is there is no institution or authority to check that the information provided by this candidate is true or false. Sometimes the leaders can provide false information also, but there is no such institution or authority in our country to check if the information given by the candidate is true or false. So this is also a problem we are facing in our country. Election Commission passed an order making it necessary for political parties to hold their organizational elections and file their income tax returns also. So income tax returns, what is their property and how much of income tax they are paying, etc. These documents also they have to submit with the election commission before giving the nomination to the for contesting in the elections. So here all these we know that sometimes, but besides these many suggestions are also often made reform political parties, so that all these if are followed, all these decisions all are followed in our country properly, then we can see that crime and money flow into the parties will be less only. So we can say a fair democracy can be observed or followed in our country. So a law should be made to regulate the internal affairs of political parties also. It should be made compulsory for political parties to maintain a register of its members. That never happens. So some policies, some of the law or rules the political parties have to follow is one thing is the maintain a register of its members, never follows that. Follow its own constitution. That means every party has their own agenda or ideology or policies that should be followed, and also they should have an independent authority to act as a judge in case of party disputes, so hold on elections in the highest posts also. In many of the countries we know that all the members in the parties select their leader, so they also has an internal election within the party who has to become the party leader. There, that never happens in our country. So many of the countries there is such an election within the party to all members together decide and select or elect their party leader, or in their region or within the top leader of the party also. So such cases we can avoid the clashes between the highest leader and the lower members of the party. So it should, another important suggestion is given here, it should be made mandatory for political parties to give a minimum number of tickets, about 1/3 to women candidates. That also, we know that minimum 33% of the women reservation was arranged in many of the states. We know that 50% of reservation is provided to allowed to the women. But we know in politics we can find in large scale male domination everywhere, and so that government has issued circular earlier that for the local body elections more participation of women should be provided. Okay, so similarly there should be a quota for women in the decision making bodies of the party also. We know in all parties in our country there are very few women candidates only. Okay, so that this also should be given priority. We know that their support also, another case we can say parties money is also flowing into the party during the election campaigns also. So one suggestion is given here is government has to provide money support to the election expenditure to the political parties. This support could be given not in case of money, with any kind or petrol or paper or telephone etc. This or vehicles etc. This type of help can be given by the government to the political parties at the time of election expenditure, so that what happens, the black money flowing into the politics or will be reduced. So here another suggestion also, these suggestions have not been accepted by political parties. These are given, whatever the suggestions given by the government is not followed by or not ready to accept by the political parties, because we know that if we find, if and when these are accepted, this could lead some sort of improvement in democratic politics, but it is not accepted by political parties. So over regulation of political parties can be counterproductive. So this would force all parties to find ways to cheat the law. So besides, political parties will not agree to pass a law that they do not like. That is also one important factor. Whatever they do not like, such kind of law they are not ready to pass in the parliament also. So these are the other ways we can change, we can make a change in the politics also, Indian politics. Media also can play an important role in this case, that through the television channels or news channels, these can be propagated, that this ideology or these suggestions can be propagated through the media also. But mostly so in this way, if these suggestions are followed by the political parties, many improvement can take place in politics. So the corruption can be reduced, entering the money and criminals into the politics also can be reduced, and also the businessmen and rich persons who are influencing the decision making by the major important political leaders also can be reduced. So the quality of democracy depending upon the degree of public participation, that is very important. Mostly people of the ordinary people are not engaged in politics, not interested in politics. They are not bothered about what is happening within our country. So public participation also is very important. If people are opposing the wrong decisions taken by the government or major political leaders, a lot of changes can be occurred, but it never happens in our country. Ordinary citizens are often silent about the decisions of the government or political leaders. So that's all about this chapter, political parties, and in the next class we will start with the outcomes of democracy. Next chapter, chapter number 7.